done. Thank you. There's probably a million other things on your calendars that you could have done, and you chose to click that Zoom link and show up here, even though you didn't maybe know what was going to happen or what it was like, but you chose to be here. So I want to honor you, every single one of you, for being here, and honor you for taking the time out to celebrate yourself, because we're going to talk a lot about celebrating resilience today. And resilience is the name of the game in the last couple of years. So I want to welcome all of you. My name is Tina Paulus Kraus. I am the vice chair for Women United. And we have a fun-packed couple of hours for you. We have a lot of juicy stuff that we're going to be talking to you about. And so I'm really, really excited that everyone is here. And what I really want to do, what I really want to talk about, I know everybody's introducing themselves in the chat and where they're from and all that stuff. But what I want you to do is I want you to really just take a big, deep breath right now. You got here, you're probably scrambling, you got in your seat, you got your coffee, you got all your stuff, and you're here. So you're here. Let's just take a big, deep breath and sink into being in community, sink into being together, sink into celebrating women and celebrating our resilience, because we are all resilient. We are all powerhouses. We are all made to really, really rock this resilience thing. And so what I want to know in the chat is, what does resilience mean to you? When you saw embodying resilience, when you saw celebrating your resilience, what was it that said, oh, I want to tune into that. I want to make sure that I hear about that. I want to be a part of that. So in chat, I would love to know, what does resilience mean to you? And not only what does resilience mean to you, but I also want you to take a second to really sink and check in with your heart, right? And check in with, what is it that I want to get out of today? When I clicked that link and I signed up for this session, what was it that interested me, and what is it that I want to take away today? Because you're going to have some time to ask questions, and you're going to have a lot of time to listen, but you're all here for a different reason. I want you to tap into that intention, because intention matters. We are in a busy, busy, busy world right now. And without intention, we're kind of scurrying on a little bit of a rat race, because we go, 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 go. And if we're not intentional about taking care of ourselves, if we're not intentional about nurturing that resilience, if we're not intentional about the self-care that it takes to be our best selves, we get a little bit lost sometimes, right? Everybody agree with that? Raise your hand if you've gotten a little lost sometimes. Yeah. And so it's the resilience that brings us back from being lost, right? It's that resilience that's in every single one of us that allows us to stand up tall and go, nope, I get to win. I get to take my power back. I get to create what this looks like, instead of kind of letting everything dump on us. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. What I'd love to know on a scale of 1 to 10, I love all the stuff that's coming up, bouncing back hard, the art of pivot. I love that. The art of pivot. I refer to that as shifting. It's the same thing, right? Shifting. So when you're in the dumps, when you're feeling it, when you get triggered, how quick do you shift? That's resilience. How quick do you shift, or do you choose to stay in it? Right? Like I'll admit, like there's been times when I've chosen to stay in it, and then it's like, oh, you're choosing to stay in it right now. Resilience gets me out of it. So I love, love, love all the stuff and where you guys are coming with resilience. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I do a lot of scale of 1 to 10. Where are you at with resilience? 1 means I sit in it forever. And 10 means, nope, I find a tool and I pull myself out immediately. I'd love to know where you're at. And again, there's no right or wrong in that number. There's no blame or shame in that number. It's just about awareness and knowing that, no, when I get sidetracked, I get to win. I get to pull myself out of that. I get to shift and find whatever tool is going to make that happen. And we have 3 amazing speakers today that are going to give you all kinds of tools and tips and tricks and everything that goes along with it to really, really dig into what resilience means to you, and how do you learn to shift quicker and quicker and quicker all the time. But before we get there, I have the honor of bringing Jill Whipley up to the stage. And I want to just say a few words about Jill before we go there. Jill is our chair for Women United, and I've walked this journey now with Jill for a year or two in this position, and Jill pours it all in. She pours it all into this community, and she walks the talk, and she embodies resilience. And so I want to honor you, Jill, and thank you for your service and everything that you do for this community. And so Jill has some exciting stuff to talk to us about, what's going to be happening from a Women United perspective throughout 2022 and United Way. So Jill, I want to welcome you to give us some good, juicy stuff.
Tina, thank you so much. And boy, what a way to start my day with an introduction like that. It can, just made my whole day. Thank you, Tina. And to everybody here who showed up for today's session, we're very excited about it, and the tools and tips and tricks that you're going to learn from this, and figure out, what do you take back? What do you put in your tool belt so that, you can apply it to how you live and work and lead every day. And so I wanted to just spend a couple of minutes checking in with those of you who are here. Who on the call today, is this your first Women's United event? Can you raise your hand just to kind of let us know, is this something that's new to you? Are you and just coming to see us for the first time? Okay, thank you. Awesome. Yeah, you can, if just hit the hands up, raise your hand, whatever that is for you. And for those of you that it isn't your first time, thank you so much for coming back. Your support means the world to us. We, as part of Women's United, we're part of the Dane County Women's United. And when I first became aware of this, I didn't realize the global sisterhood that I was joining. Once I got into Women's United a little bit and found out, there are more than 70,000 women across 6 different countries and in 165 communities who are making a global change in their local communities. And so while we are here local, we are part of a global organization. And so that, ability to impact and make change really speaks to my heart, because I love to be able to see it immediately here in Dane County, but also know that we're able to impact a much larger force. And so here in Dane County, the Women United was, we focus on advocating for and supporting the education of our youth, but also for the personal and professional development of the women in Dane County. So we've got these kind of dual tracks that we pay attention to and focus our events around. And I wanted you to know, just as you're coming in and joining Women's United this event today, or if you want to come back, you're joining an organization here in Dane County that's only been around for about 20 years, but we've made a huge impact in the schools of hope and in the mentoring communities here in Dane County. But it was started by about 20 women who recognized that there was that achievement gap, who saw that there were things happening in Dane County schools and the advancement of our youth and understanding, their education and being prepared to read going into higher grades. And so these women came together themselves, started this connection with Women United, and each contributed $1,000 to get it started. And that's what helped support the Elementary Schools of Hope program that provides all the tutoring for our elementary schools. And so we have continued that support. So as you participate in things for your own personal and professional development with Women's United, know that the philanthropy and any monetary contributions you choose to give go towards supporting the Schools of Hope and helping our students in Dane County really accelerate their reading. And that's part of a legacy that we're really proud to continue. And the way we're able to do that is through, making contributions through different philanthropy. And just want to get it on your calendar right now, because our big event each year is our fundraiser brunch, where we honor a woman in Dane County for her philanthropy over, her lifetime career. And it's always so inspiring to go that day. So I want you to mark down September 16th, because we will be acknowledging the 9 amazing women we've already honored, and honoring a new award winner, which we will be getting that name out to everyone shortly. We're in the nomination process right now. And we're also connecting ourselves to the United Way's 100th anniversary. You may see some of us have a background here for 100 on, or you may have been part of the centennial celebration a couple of weeks ago down at the Orpheum. But 100 years of Dane County, in Dane County, United Way, making an impact and really helping the last couple of years have been a testament to their ability to pivot and to make a difference very quickly. And so it is everyone should have an audacious goal. We talk about being resilient. When you bounce back, how are you being robust? We at Women United have established the aim of raising $100,000 for the Schools of Hope this year to acknowledge the 100 years of United Way in Dane County. And we're doing this from March 2022 through March 2023. So you'll see there'll be other opportunities for you to participate in events, and please consider this as you're looking at the different areas that you support. And so to give you a little more background about, hey, so like, where's my money going? We are delighted today to have Carl Johnson with us. He is the United Way of Dane County's program manager for the Schools of Hope. And he's going to share with us a little bit more about the program and help you to connect with it so that you really understand the impact that you can make here in Dane County with your contributions. Carl, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Jill. As you mentioned, I am the program manager. Our program director, Emily Green, is on a well-deserved spring break vacation. So hopefully I am an adequate substitute this morning.
We are delighted to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. So like you mentioned, the Schools of Hope has been a staple of the United Way for, I think, the last 20 plus years. And again, we were fortunate that our director, Emily Green, has been with that program for most of those 20 years. So yeah, we're pretty excited to be around and be doing things. And on the topic of resiliency, oof, that's the word of the year for our program. Between the students that we are trying to support and work with, but also the members that we have that have been in schools this year that have just seen how difficult and how challenging it's been within the schools this year, not only for the students, but also for staff, for faculty. It has been a year of resilience for anyone that has anything to do with the school this year. And so it's been quite the year. I think we can go to the first slide. So Schools of Hope takes some explaining sometimes because it's hard to talk about Schools of Hope without also talking about AmeriCorps. And some of you may be familiar with AmeriCorps, but for those of you who are maybe not familiar with AmeriCorps, AmeriCorps is a national level service program. If you think of the Peace Corps as being an international service program where we send people abroad, AmeriCorps is almost a domestic version of that. We're not actually affiliated with the Peace Corps, but for comparison's sake, that's about the easiest way to do it. Basically, any person within the U.S. That's a U.S. citizen, which is a piece that we can talk about in a second and some of the challenges, can decide if they're feeling called to service. They can apply to be an AmeriCorps member and they can choose a location where to be of service to their community. So you start by saying, I want to be of service. I want to serve my community. I am going to apply to be an AmeriCorps member. And so you go through the AmeriCorps application, then you choose specific locations, whether geographically or even, so you got to choose a place within the country. You got to choose a type of program, whether it's state and national, whether it's VISTA, whether it's NCCC, which there's lots of layers to this wheel. We'll focus on just our layer, which is under state and national. And then once you actually choose a geographical location, then you have to choose a program or a project within that location. So for people looking at doing AmeriCorps here in Madison, they can choose from a variety of different programs. Ours is one of them, and ours has one of the most, the largest number of service sites, as we have one at most of the elementary schools. And we comprise, on a good year, most of the AmeriCorps members, or a decent number of the AmeriCorps members in Madison, or in Dane County specifically. So that's how someone gets to us, is they start by wanting to do service. Maybe that started by meeting one of us, meeting me at a recruitment event, or that is they just heard about it through word of mouth, or they happen to just say, I want to do AmeriCorps, I'm going to come to Madison and let me look for programs in Madison, and they find us and they like what we do. And so they sign on to our project. What we do then is we place them inside of an elementary school. We find a good fit based off of that year's needs, what Emily is hearing from principals about what the school year is going to look like, what their needs are at that school. Primarily, we look at community schools or schools with the highest needs of literacy support. As we are going to be doing literacy tutoring, we want to be in the place with the highest needs. And then we also take in a couple of other factors like members' ability to get to different locations, And then we place them at the school that we think will be the best fit for them for that year. And at that point, then that basically becomes their office. They embed within the school, they work with the staff, they work with the principal, they're in classrooms, they're in the schools 40 hours a week for their full year of service. And maybe I missed the part where AmeriCorps members serve a 1-year term of service. They can serve another year of service, but at the end of that year, they have the option to take their education award, to take their professional development and head off and do whatever other great things they want to do, or they can come back and they can sign on to do another year with us, which is always welcome and appreciated. So they're at those elementary schools full time, and they continue to work with us and we do our thing. But they're off. They're working with staff and teachers to identify students who are in need of additional literacy support. Typically, those aren't going to be students. If a student rises to the level of, say, needing an IEP, that's still going to be handled by the school in the formal fashion that a school would handle that. If the school decides that as a part of that, they want additional support from AmeriCorps members, then they're going to be able to step in and provide there. But we're not replacing any formal school processes, and that's both something that's required by AmeriCorps, but also something that's just good practice within the school. So we're really trying to hit that gap where students are maybe having a little bit of difficulty and they're struggling, and maybe they're not going to hit those proficiency levels that we know that students need to hit if they want to continue to keep up. What we find is that there's kind of this shift between the 3rd and 4th grade level where education goes from learning to read to reading to learn. And so when that shift happens, and if they don't have that proficiency, they start to fall behind very quickly from 4th grade on. And so we try to fill that gap and find those students that could benefit from just some additional literacy supports and very structured, guided literacy supports. And then our AmeriCorps members, and that's where they jump in and they try to facilitate that. And additionally, when there's not a global pandemic wreaking havoc on the world, we would take many community volunteers. Our AmeriCorps members would coordinate community volunteers to come in and provide even more literacy support to those students or additional students. So they would coordinate upwards of, throughout a year prior pre-pandemic, I think we had upwards of 300 volunteers coming into schools in addition to the AmeriCorps members that were there full time. Unfortunately, for the last 2 years, volunteers have not been allowed in schools. Only very recently have there been some schools willing to try to work with a few volunteers. But like I said, this is just the last 2 weeks, and we're talking maybe 5 volunteers who are in the talks of trying to place into schools for the rest of this year. So this is a very recent, very thing that has been difficult for the last year. I mean, that's 300 people that have not been able to work with who knows how many students that equates to. That could equate to upwards of 600 students potentially. And so these are pretty big numbers when we're talking about resilience, when we're talking about students and community impact. That's a sizable number of students and individuals. So that's the basics of how it looks. Does anyone have any questions right there about that structure or process? I don't know if I'm supposed to take questions, but why not? Let's take some questions. Well, let me get the chat open. I see no questions. Okay, onward. All right, so some of our core values that we stick by is the student selection is done by school staff. Our AmeriCorps members are in classrooms. They're working directly with teachers in multiple classrooms and multiple grade levels to get these students. This isn't something that's just, we're not casting a wide net. We're not just grabbing students. Students are being selected very specifically, very intentionally, and they're being found by teachers. So that's one thing that we value very strongly, is that these students are getting very individual specific attention for very specific reasons. In addition, because it's being done in such close contact with school classroom teachers, we're able to use their curriculum so that they're staying very in line with when that student is done with tutoring or outside of their tutoring, they're still keeping up with exactly with what's going on in class. So when they're off being tutored, they're not missing out, they're not falling behind with what's going on with curriculum, that they're working together, and those two things match up, which is not only helpful for the student, but also helps us as part of our tools and part of our guiding, being able to base it off the curriculum. Having the tutor coordinator based in school, we think is mad. That's everything. It's difficult. It's a big ask to have a school take someone in and to have them be there, which is why we try to value our AmeriCorps members being full-time members as opposed to part-time members. Just because when we're asking schools to take in someone full-time, when we're asking these young students to have someone in their life, we want that person to be very present, to be very visible, to be very embedded, because it makes those relationships stronger. It makes that impact stronger. And so we value putting those students or those tutor coordinators, those AmeriCorps members inside the school at all times. And the community volunteers, like we talked about, it's huge. Like we talked about, when you got 300 volunteers working with at minimum one student for at minimum 1 hour a week, many of them choosing to do multiple students, multiple hours per week, that makes a huge impact. That multiplies rapidly. And the more AmeriCorps members we have, the more community volunteers we can have. And so when we have, in the perfect world, we've got 16 AmeriCorps members who have probably anywhere from 30 to 40 volunteers each in the perfect world, which it wasn't perfect, but we got much closer to that when we were actually allowed to use community volunteers. And we're hoping that in this next upcoming years, we're able to get back to those kinds of things. So it makes a huge impact. And again, the AmeriCorps members, we'll talk about some of the challenges, but to see some of these people who commit to a full year of service in a very difficult environment, especially these last 2 years of AmeriCorps members who knew what they were getting into. We did not mince our words when we told them, like, this is going to be difficult. This is going to be a really difficult environment to walk into. Or unfortunately, the living stipend isn't going to be very much. It's a very modest living stipend. So you really have to want to do this. You have to believe in this, and you have to commit to this. And they did without a second thought, without a second word. They dove in, and they're making it through, and they're finding ways to thrive and to be incredibly successful. And we couldn't be more proud of the AmeriCorps members we've had over these last few years. As a former AmeriCorps member myself, I was not an AmeriCorps member with the Schools of Hope project. Emily was actually, which is another part that makes her so remarkable. But it impacted me so greatly that I was so excited to come back and join this program as a full-time staff. But it's just, I can't imagine how I'm in awe of our current AmeriCorps members. And again, the one-to-one literacy tutoring is really where it all starts. And so students being able to work directly with trained literacy tutors on things that tutor is seeing on a daily basis. So our AmeriCorps members are seeing exactly what their challenges are on a day-to-day basis. They can say, okay, we worked on this yesterday, now let's try to work on this again today. They can do these daily things and really see progress. They can really see, what are we not getting? What can we maybe spend more time on? What did we finally get? What can we celebrate now? Let's move on to the next thing. So having that one-to-one attention from someone who's there every day with you, building a relationship with you, I think is massive. So a lot of fun things. Now I think we talk about some of the challenges on the next one, I believe. Yes. So some of the challenges, student access is one of the main ones, because we're talking about students who have very structured days, sometimes multiple classrooms, and a literacy block typically only comprises one portion of that. And our AmeriCorps members maybe have upwards of, some of them might have like 30, 40 or more students on their schedule. So trying to get access to be able to even pull, and sometimes they don't want the students leaving the classroom to do the tutoring. So we have multiple things where we're trying to get through. AmeriCorps member recruitment has been a challenge for Schools of Hope and Dane County AmeriCorps program specifically for a number of years, but it's also been a challenge nationwide. There's just been a decline in AmeriCorps member involvement, which is something I could talk at length about as the person primarily responsible for AmeriCorps member recruitment. But I'm just going to throw this out. If you know anyone who would like to serve in a year with AmeriCorps, please send them my way. Measuring success is incredibly challenging, because we're talking about a lot of very specific data points that take a lot of time, a lot of money to to track, but also most of the things we need to use to measure success are based off of standardized testing, which is a thing we don't have much control over. And when we have to rely on whatever recent standardized tests have been used by this district or by the schools, that's kind of very limiting for us, especially during the pandemic when some of those standardized tests weren't even implemented, weren't even proctored during that time. So we had no data because they didn't do any standardized testing during that time. So there's some challenges there. What is your contact before becoming a mentor? Oh, I will speak to that very soon. And I'd be very excited to speak to that question. So recruiting diverse volunteers and AmeriCorps members. This is a big one. When we talk about the limitations to AmeriCorps, unfortunately, as much as I love everything about AmeriCorps, that I want to acknowledge that AmeriCorps does have some very inherent problems with it. Some of the main ones being it does not pay what I would consider a very living. You have to be in a very specific financial situation to be able to even afford to do AmeriCorps. So when we talk about this, a full-time member for next year, I believe the total living stipend by the end of their term of service is $20,000. There's an education award you receive upon completion of your service that is specific to continuing education or previous student loans, which is about $7,000. So you could consider that a total of $27,000, but in terms of what you get to live off of is $20,000. So that's a big ask that really you have to be in a somewhat privileged position to be able to even afford to do something like AmeriCorps. And that's going to be true pretty much wherever you go. We pay our AmeriCorps members about as much as we're allowed to pay them. And that's the best, and so these are things that there are lots of conversations. People like me are constantly trying to advocate, and there's things happening at the federal level right now that will hopefully change that. But there's some very inherent barriers, such as U.S. citizenship. I don't know that I personally understand why we have this barrier of U.S. citizenship. I meet so many international students, so many at these college career fairs who are like, I will apply today. They're so eager and so excited. They're like, I believe in this. I want to do this. And I say, I want you to do this too. But they're like, but I'm on a visa. And I'm like, I can't. And it's just like, it pains me because why are we turning away people who are eager to be of service to their community? And so there's just there's just some inherent barriers that lead us to having a very specific look to our volunteer base and our AmeriCorps base, which is unfortunate, which we have some strategies in place that we're trying to change, but we need the pandemic to look a little bit different before we're able to really implement some of those things, because there's just a lot of barriers right now. So
Carl, it sounds like our resilience topic is lining right up with some of the challenges that the AmeriCorps volunteers are and that you are faced with. I'm wondering, because I know we've gotten a couple of questions in here
Yes.
about AmeriCorps, if it would be possible for us to maybe put your information in the chat, and those people who are interested in getting more information might be able to access it from you directly.
They absolutely can. I will talk to them.
Really applaud. Thank you so much. The work that you do and the Schools of Hope does. Taking a look at this, the phrase that you started off with at the beginning really stuck with me. It's that, up until about third grade, students are learning to read. And after that, we're all reading to learn. And so if we don't have the proper structure and support in there for our students up to third grade, they just exponentially fall behind.
Yeah, and we can track those.
Yeah,
track those all the way through graduation.
Where we are, looking to commit our philanthropy funds to the Schools of Hope and being able to support that and help you continue just the really amazing work that you and Emily and the rest of the crew do with this. Thank you so much for coming today and joining us and sharing with us. And if anybody else has other questions, please do not hesitate to throw those into the chat. Thank you, Carl, yes, for coming, really giving your time here this morning. I appreciate it, learning more about it. I learned something new each time.
Do you guys meet somebody new?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. It's always fun to meet someone new. And I know we always roll our eyes, that and role playing, right? But guess what? We've been through some stuff in the last 2 years. And so showing up in a space with someone else even when we feel like we don't want to, right? Like, oh, you're going to make me talk to somebody. You're going to make me go in a breakout room. Even though we don't like, we resist that and we don't feel it. How many of you felt amazing once you actually got into the conversation and you made a new connection and you made a new friend? That's resilience, right? Like that's resilience. It's doing the stuff that we don't maybe want to do in the moment, but knowing that it's going to take us to our vision, knowing it's going to take us to be who it is that we want to show up as. So I honor you guys for going through that. We had a couple people drop, I'm going to be honest, when they heard about the dyads. So we're like, interesting. So I honor you for sticking around. I honor you for having the resilience to go into the breakout room and meet new people, because it matters. It's how we move forward. It's how we connect with each other. It's how we create resilience. It's how we create trust, all of it, even when we sometimes don't want to. So I am super excited because right now I get to bring up our first guest, our first speaker, not our guest, our first speaker. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and read Katie's bio, and then we'll bring her front and center to the stage to present. So Katie Christ, Katie, CEO and founder of Recalibrate Your Total Transformation. Katie Christ is the CEO and founder of Recalibrate Your Total Transformation, a health and wellness coaching program helping burnt out women reactivate their health and align back to their bodies so that they can lose weight, gain energy, and create a holistic total body transformation. Who's interested in that? She specializes in habit development, mindset, body image, and motivation. She guides her clients through a step-by-step process that helps them understand what is stopping them, slowing them down, or getting in the way of following through on their health goals so that they can achieve inevitable success. She focuses on habit development specifically. Why? Because focusing on implementing extraordinary habits is the single most powerful and strategic way to accomplish your goals. By the end of working with Katie, clients have different rituals, different habits, and feel totally transformed in their bodies. And what Katie aims towards is not the same quick fix, but rather making those changes last. So with that, I am honored to bring forward Katie Christ to talk to us about resilience. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Tina. That was amazing. Hi, guys. Again, my name is Katie Christ. When I was thinking about resilience, I was like, okay, there is so much going on in our world right now. And again, my kind of coaching background, a lot of it it's just those small habits, those small 1% needle movers that if we just act consistently on them, they compound. They're just like, okay, keep going, keep going, keep going. And so when I was thinking of, okay, regardless if it's about your health and your wellness, or regardless if it's you want to kind of create transformation in your work or with your kids or with your partners, your friendships, anything, it's like, okay, how do we kind of keep going and keep moving the needle forward? And a lot of it does come back to of just this whole concept of resilience. But resilience is hard. Resilience is a hard thing to do, especially when our habits and our mindset and kind of these things that are going on with us they might be derailing us. So a lot of times with habit development, the keys things that we do is that we want to steer away from pain, or we want to go towards pleasure. And so, but a lot of the times those pains that are keeping us back, those are derailing us. And so when I was thinking about resilience, I was trying to, what I always go towards is I go first towards what is the information that I can learn. And so one thing that I was looking back at is looking at, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Brendan Burchard. He's really big in the personal development space. And one of these things that he talked about, it was the one piece of information that just changed everything for me, is a quote that hurt and pain are indicator lights, not the wheel. And so when he was talking about resilience, he was talking about how things that come into our life, things like, again, in my world, a lot of the times I talk with women about body image struggles, about their pain of not looking and feeling as confident. And so those hurts and those pains, they're using those as the wheel to drive their own behavior. But truly, truly hurt and pain, we can't drive our bus, our car, our train, whatever it is, utilizing those. And so what we can do though, is we can take a step back and we can understand any hurt or pain, anything that we are kind of really struggling with, or just we see repeated over and over and over again. They're indicators. They're saying to us, hey, something is just a little bit off. Something just needs to be pivoted just a little bit for us to get going. And so that's really where I want to kind of take this conversation. I don't want to just throw more information at you guys, because I feel like there's so much going on, again, with the world just changing constantly. I feel like we're always getting new information of do this, do that, kind of pivot this way, think about this, act like this. I don't want to throw more information at you. I want you guys to kind of take this time and take a little bit step back and kind of understand in your own heart, with your own intuition, what do you want? What is your wheel? How do you kind of keep driving forward where when you do have these painful things coming through, when you do kind of feel like things are self-sabotaging you, or kind of, whether it's the world or the environment or friends in your personal life, when you feel those pain, you're not driving from that pain anymore. You're driving from your vision. And so that's why I really want it. In a good coach, you usually get information, but then you also get transformation and integration tools. And so I'm really going to focus on this transformational process and integration process by asking you guys 4 simple questions to journal on, just 4. So I'll link kind of, it's what I tell my clients every single month to keep the resilience going, to keep just moving forward, just those one little pivots, do a monthly audit. And so by doing a monthly audit, you just kind of really understand and take a grasp of, oh, okay, I know this happened in my life and I struggled with X, Y, and Z. And instead of just getting so bogged down, instead of letting those hurt and pain steer your car, we just use those as, hey, this is just an indicator that something's a little bit off. And so then moving forward, you can say, oh, okay, this is how I want to change. So if you guys can take the time, and I like, this isn't complicated work, nor is it, people just don't do it. I'm just taking the time to actually journal about what you want. This will change everything. So I'm going to share with you guys 4 super, super simple questions to do a life audit with you, and to really understand, instead of linking back into the pain, I want us to figure out, okay, what do you want? What is stopping you or slowing you down? And then creating a path forward. So I'm going to, my first question for you is, I want you to know, okay, where is your current reality? What is currently going on? And I want you to write this down specifically. I'll put a timer for about 2 minutes of just really list off exactly what is your current reality. And so I'm going to share some music with you guys, and hopefully you guys can listen to that. Tina, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear the music? So again, just really looking at where you currently at in your life. This is just developing resilience, is really just kind of taking an audit of, hey, like, this is my reality. So write about literally whatever comes to your mind of anything in your physical, your mental space, your emotional space, your spiritual space. It can be a list of material things, people in your life, emotions, feeling. So the key is just to not be judgmental here, is to really just get an understanding of, hey, this is it. This is where I'm currently at. next question is, where do you want to be? So let's shift your focus and just fantasize. If you could have everything that you ever wanted, what would your life look like? And so there are no limits. Do not limit yourself right now. Write down anything, any materialistic things, any feelings or thoughts or people in your life. Just go deeper on, okay, what do you want your life to feel like? And do about 2 minutes again for journaling.
You.
All right. And so then the next question, this question right here, this is resilience. Make your dump list. So here is what I want to get rid of. So who in your life or what in your life is not serving you well, or what is draining your energy? So I know like this is such a dang simple practice. And for some of you guys who might just be like, who is this weirdo who's just putting on weird music? When we know the vision, that's the wheel. When we can figure out these indicator lights that are throwing you off from your wheel and dump them, that's resilience. So take the time right now to say, what is stopping me from my dream? Look back at your reality list. What's on there? And like either circle them and say, what are you going to dump so that you can make way for that dream vision? This right here is resilience. All right, and then the last question, and I'll have to shorten this a little bit, is what do you want to keep? So again, looking back at your reality list, I don't want us to just look at like, oh, these all negative things that are keeping me down. I want us to focus on what are you going to keep that is kind of propelling you towards that dream self. Again, where focus goes, energy goes. And that's where resilience is, understanding what's keeping you back and then having hyper focus for what's keeping you forward. Okay, about 30 more seconds and journaling about this. This is quick. All right, we'll wrap up. I'll stop sharing the music. Again, the two things that just hurt and pain are indicator lights, not the wheel. And so one of the biggest things that you guys could do to develop and sustain resilience is, like, at a minimum every single month, just do a monthly or life audit like this. I'll give a link of what I give my clients. It's about 17 questions to do a monthly audit. And it's just kind of allowing yourself to just take a step back and just pivot again, pivot again, pivot again, and know what is keeping you down, those indicator lights that might be steering you off track, and just acknowledging those and just saying, okay, how do I let go of these and keep moving forward? It's just those little pivots, those 1% needle movers that will create that consistency. So sorry, that was a little bit rushed, but I could do this forever.
All right, Katie, let's give Katie a round of applause. Thank you so much, Katie. That was amazing. That between the music and just your voice and your calm groundedness, it was like a beautiful experience. So thank you. Definitely for that. The indicators are huge. So the question to ask yourself is, what are you doing when you get those indicators? What tool are you pulling out to quickly shift? Kind of going back to what we were talking about before. So love the life audit, the monthly life audit. It's a way to really keep your space clean and keep everything there. So thank you again. Okay, so we get to bring up our next speaker. Super excited to introduce Amy Ackerman to the stage. Let me read Amy's bio, and then we get to bring her up so she can share her juiciness with us. So Amy Ackerman has over 30 years of experience helping individuals and businesses achieve their goals, navigating change to become their best versions possible. Her career in human resources and leadership spans technology, professional services, healthcare, nonprofit sectors, and more. Today, Amy is a partner at Core Endeavors Coaching and Consulting, where she coaches individuals seeking support in moving from what's now to what's next, and counsels leaders, teams, and organizations eager to make an impactful and lasting change. So with that, I would love to welcome Amy to the stage.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Tina. And thank you, Katie, for going first. Yay, somebody had to start us off. And who better than Katie in that audit? Starting with a personal resilience audit is really foundational, excuse me, for creating and maintaining your energy, your resolve, and your resilience, as Katie said, and building those habits and those standard practices that come back and serve you time after time, really gets you going and get you toward your final goal. I am honored to be here with you today. In my coaching and consulting practice, resilience and resolve are common themes, particularly with female clients. We know the world can be really hard on us, and we can be hard on ourselves as well. What we continue to think, what I talk to clients about, is at some point it would be really nice if we didn't need to be so resilient so often, right? I mean, can I get a thumbs up there? And especially as Tina's been talking about, the last couple of years have really tried our resolve and resilience. And guess what? We're all still here. And life happens. And what we say at Core Endeavors is shift happens. And we need the mindset and the skills to really ebb and flow to accommodate the ups and downs to shift gears in order to keep moving forward. And as Katie said, to really take control of the actual wheel while heeding those warning lights that might be going off. There are tools that you can use and actions you can take to help build your resolve and elevate that resilience that you already have that's hidden deep within you sometimes. And I want to share a few of those with you, with a few of the tools and tips that I use regularly myself and to support my clients. One thing that I know Katie does and Allison as well is we won't share things with you that we haven't used ourselves or we don't go back to time and time again. It's critical. So there is or should be a link coming into the chat for those that may want to follow along with the tools and tips. There's a resilience inventory and assessment. We'll get to that second, but there's a tools and tips piece as well that I think is also out there. So let's move forward. So the first thing is language matters. What you say really matters. You believe what you say in your mind, or if you say it out loud. Things like "I'll try" or "this might work" seem kind, but they're actually less helpful. They signal a passiveness or a defeat. So you're already cutting yourself off before you start. What is recommended is to use definitive and positive language. Statements like "I will do it" or "this will work." They signal possibility, even if you're not consciously aware of that. Also beware of should. Shoulding on yourself, quote unquote, can have really negative impacts. And consider saying "what if" instead. And by saying that, think about the difference between "I should meet them for lunch" versus saying "what if I meet them for lunch." It just signals your body, your mind, your mindset, and that possibility in a totally different way. So mind your language a little bit. There's also something else that we talk a lot about, and I don't know if you can see this super well, but it's more of a highlight of a visual of the circles here. 3 circles, a middle, a central, and an outer. And these are the circles of concern, control, and influence. And this is really made popular by Stephen Covey in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People many moons ago, sort of stating my age there, but it's a tried and true book and some really great tips on how to move through life. If you Google concerns of or circles of concern, control, and influence, you'll find any number of different images. So you can sort of think about or look at what works for you. But in general, the outside circle are the concerns. It's the largest, most swirly circle. It is many times just sort of going even in our subconscious. It's things like the weather, politics, other people's behaviors, what's going on with the movie stars and other famous personalities. It's generally stuff we have absolutely no control over, but takes up a lot of our mind space and a lot of our energy in our concerns. The inside circle, that little bullet in the middle or the bullseye in the middle, is the smallest and it's the most condensed circle. And it's what we can directly impact through our thoughts, our words, and our actions. This is the area about which we have complete control. We don't need or want anybody else in there. We can do it. But again, we can directly impact through our thoughts, words, and actions. We like to think the circle is a lot bigger, but it's not. It's pretty dense and it's pretty small. The middle circle is that influence circle. And that's what I call sort of the circle of maybe manageability. It usually involves other people. We have no real control, but we might be able to influence through what we can control. And so if you can leverage those control aspects, you might be able to move the needle for yourself and other people by influencing. The thing with these is to identify the item of concern. And if you can individually directly control it, then do something about it. Do something about it. And sometimes that can be just letting it go. But if the power really lies with others, decide if you can influence the outcomes, and if not, release it from your concern. As they say in Frozen, let it go, let it go. The next tool or tip is to diversify your support and joy portfolios. You might say, what the heck do you mean by that? Well, basically it means don't put all of your eggs in just one basket. They have a variety of people that you can call on for support, not just that one go-to. Now, you may have a favorite, might be your mom, your spouse, your sister or brother, or a close friend or colleague, but have more than one so that when you're really in need and that one person isn't available, you have a couple others that you can call on. Similar, this aligns really with what Katie was saying with sort of who or what's in your support corner. And then also we get resilience by having joy, by having sort of good and fun experiences. And so refueling by having several different activities and interests that bring you joy and that you can engage in regularly to fill that energy and happiness bucket. And again, it might be weather permitting or mood permitting or other circumstance permitting, but have more than one that fills that bucket for you and can rebuild that energy. The next tip is to maintain perspective. There's something that we fall into a lot as humans, is that perfection, procrastination, predicament. And say that thing several times fast, but the perfection, procrastination, predicament. And that's really delaying something because you can't do it perfectly. So what do? As Nike said, just do it. Or as I say, just start it. One step toward the end result. Just one thing. What's one thing? It can be really small, but it's taking that one step. And by doing that, you start to build momentum and confidence, and you can move toward what's next. The other thing is know when perfect is needed. So often we get into this perfection syndrome where we have to have it just right in just the right way all the time. And quite frankly, perfection is not needed most of the time. So what we really sort of suggest is to understand or know when good enough is good enough. Set realistic expectations and goals, and when you hit them to the best of your ability and to good enough, move on and pat yourself on the back. Reflect back to move ahead. And again, Katie sort of touched on some of this as well. But when you're feeling overwhelmed, when those warning lights are on, think back to past times that you have persevered through challenges. You can probably have a Rolodex in your mind of times when you have really not only met but beaten things that have come up against you. And when we get into circumstances where we're overwhelmed or challenged, we a lot of times forget what we've already come through and what tools, what experiences, what skills and lessons we have that we can apply in the current situation. So when you feel that overwhelm and you're looking to find some resolve and resilience, think back to those successes that you've already had and bring those lessons forward. Embrace the space between. This was created by the neurologist and psychologist Viktor Frankl many, many moons ago. And really what it is it's between a stimulus and a response is a space. There's a space in here. It's a point in time or many points in time, but really is a pause in the action. And so many times we feel like we need to have an immediate answer. And actually that's rarely the case. Just like perfection, the need for perfection is rarely the case. So what's suggested is that you use that space to prolong the pause. If nothing else, just breathe. A couple of really deep breaths to reset your mind and your body. But you can also consider your options or responses and then intentionally choose your reaction. Try a little tenderness. This is also a song, cue other music. But when you're feeling down, what do you say to yourself? I started out by talking about language matters. Language matters here too. When you're down, are you kind? Are you gentle? Are you forgiving and understanding? Or are you hard on yourself and shoulding yourself again to say you should have known better, you could have done this? What I ask my clients in coaching is to say, what would you say to someone else in this exact same situation? Chances are you'd be a lot more kind and understanding to them. So what would happen if you gave yourself the same kindness, grace, and love in that moment along your path to be a little tender, a little bit more forgiving, and a little bit more encouraging instead of bashing yourself and focusing on what isn't working? And I have one more bonus thing that I did not include on the list there in the handout or the link, and that's giving to, giving in, and giving up. These are always three options that we have at any point. And in any situation, we do have that choice. And it's not always maybe the preferred choice by you or others, but it may be the best choice given the circumstances, especially where your resolve and your energy might lay. You can give to or engage. That's bringing your full self. You can be all in, but you can care. You can say, I'm all in and I'm going to give energy and time to this. You can give in, or you can release some control. Bring what you have to stay connected and involved, but maybe you're not leading the project, you're just part of the project, which is also a really important role in getting things accomplished. And then finally, you can give up or you can walk away. Honoring your ability to disengage is about as much power as you can have in any given situation. That's a vulnerability, and honoring your vulnerability is how you really continue to move forward. So sometimes giving up is absolutely the right way. And guess what? You can usually re-engage later and try again. So giving up doesn't mean forever. So some things to think about. All of these take practice, and by engaging with them, you'll find what works more naturally for you. So have some fun and experiment with stuff. The other link that I had the folks put into the chat here is there's a link to the Core Endeavor's personal resilience self-assessment and inventory. And similar to Katie's monthly tool, this is a tool you can use to learn where you are on the resilience scale and to take stock of what you already have in your resilience toolkit. It can help you determine what is and isn't working for you and where you might want to focus in building resilience and resolve. And then finally, as I wrap up, I just did want to say a few words about the importance of mindset. You know, Tina started us all off with some intention and where we are and our energy levels. We really have fewer direct choices within our lives than we may desire. And while we can see this kind of as a negative and fairly frustrating at times, it actually can work to our advantage. Imagine how difficult things would be if you had to control or influence everything that impacted your life. How overwhelming and how scary that would be. What is always within our control and always a secret strength is our mindset, how we choose to show up mentally and emotionally each moment of each day. So the tips and tools that I shared, what Katie shared, and what Allison is going to share with you are very much connected to mindset and setting intentions about how you want to show up, how you want to respond and engage. And at every moment, that's 100% up to you, solidly within that circle of control. So tap into your core and decide how you want to engage and really lean into life.
Thank you, Amy. Let's give Amy some big snaps and claps and applause for that. Amazing. Amazing. I can't even reiterate how the words matter. Language matters. Words matter. When I don't know the exact percentage, and I was almost going to look it up and I'm like, nope, don't get distracted. But it's like 60 to 70%. Something is more likely to be reality when you speak it. And that includes speaking it to yourself. So, so powerful, Amy, that you presence that here, because resilience is about busting through those negative things that we're talking about and those negative things that we're saying. So you guys get to be your own best coaches. You get to be your own best friend. You get to be your own best cheerleader and use the right words, use words that lift you up and lift others up versus the other way around. So thank you.
Tina, before we go into I have a good friend who says, if I say it out loud, I have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And there's some truth to that, right? Like you can say it in your head, but even if nobody's listening, if you put it out into the universe, it's out there. And now there's some accountability. So
yep, energy is real. Energy. So I'm like in my head going, should I even say this or not? But like Ukraine's happening right now, right? Mm-hmm. So the best thing that each and every one of us can do is just be peaceful in our lives and pray and create that peaceful energy. And imagine if our whole world was creating peaceful energy within, how different our world would be, right? Because energy is real. Energy is real. So yes, snaps, Amy, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. So we are going to move on to our final speaker, Miss Allison Cooley. I'm going to read your beautiful bio and then hand it over to you. Allison is the founder and CEO of Effectability LLC, an organization focused on developing the organizational and leadership capabilities required to reach higher levels of success. Allison brings 25 years of senior leadership, organizational development consulting, facilitation, and business ownership experience to her coaching sessions, her workshops, retreats, and consulting engagements. Her enthusiastic, engaging style, yes, and deep knowledge of people and organizational systems has inspired thousands of leaders and team members at hundreds of organizations to communicate and collaborate more effectively, better manage change and conflict, build stronger, more inclusive relationships, create productive, resilient cultures, and move things forward. Allison holds a certified executive coach designation from the Center for Executive Coaching. She is a board certified coach, is a certified diversity and inclusion professional with the People Company, is Myers-Briggs practitioner, and is DISC certified. So she's got all the things, right? She received her bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, and her master's degree in adult education from the University of Minnesota. So please welcome me, or help me in welcoming Allison to the stage.
Thank you, my dear. My goodness, that's
Yes.
that's too much. That's a lot. We got to shorten that. Anyway, I am so happy to be here and to see everybody that's stuck around even through the breakout rooms. And what I am going to do is bring it home from taking what Katie said, what Amy said, and bringing it home to what are we going to do at 11 a.m. when this session is finished and we're applying all these tools practically. How can we make all that happen? So taking what Katie said, you know, where am I at? What's on my dump list? What's on my keep list? Now, what am I going to do about that? And thinking about what Amy said, you know, doing something about it. Just start it. I love that. That should be the, not a swoosh, but just start it. How can I now actually do that? How am I going to get that joy that I'm seeking? Or do that thing that I really, really want to do, that thing I really want to start doing, or dump that thing that is sucking me dry, that's giving me nothing. So what I have put together is some practical, like literally the words that you can say at 11:01 to dump something or to start something, whatever you're interested in doing. So, and we're going to stick a link to the document. If you want to look at it, go ahead. If you want to make notes, go for it. But what I haven't included first is how to communicate more decisively. So how do you more own, here's what I want, here's what I'm dumping, here's what I'm taking, more decisively. And this came from a assertive communication workshop that I did for specifically targeted to women. So a lot of this is based off of research that we know in particular work for females. It'll work probably for men too, but we know the reality is there are different perceptions around when I communicate. When someone sees that I'm a woman, they expect certain things from me because of societal norms, etc. So reality is we as women can get more of what we want, move things forward more if we try these 5 tips or 5 strategies that I've listed here. So keeping in mind that, you know, what am I dumping? What am I keeping? What am I trying new? What am I getting started? What joy do I want? Keeping all those things in mind. First strategy that I have listed here iterates something that Amy just said, using clear, direct, powerful language. This takes practice. This is not new. Not using these filler words. I feel like that got into my vernacular a couple years ago and I hate it. You know, I feel like this. No, I know this. Kind of, sort of. So they make you sound unsure. I know I don't have latest research, but I am fairly sure that women say, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry, my bad, a ton more than men do. I wish I could record that all the different times I say it, other people say it. So get that out of your vernacular. Unless truly you are sorry for something, don't say it. Don't own something that you don't need to own. So number 1, as of 11:01, we're not saying that anymore. We're not apologizing. We're not saying sorry. We're not saying, I just feel that way. I feel like that's out. Second thing, own your point of view. So owning my point of view. I've researched it. I've thought it through. I've put heart and soul into this is how I feel. So own that. Don't apologize for it. If you need to do some research, like before going into a conversation or a meeting, if you need to do some research on what it is that you want, go for it, just so that you're maybe more sure. But yeah, own it. Walk in and say, this is how I feel. I've done the research. I know it. So and don't apologize for it. Number 3, this is an interesting one. I put some references in here. This came from, I think I did. Oh yeah. This came from one of the books that I read about explaining intention before your content. Explain intent before content. And this is some research that they did. I wonder if it was Facebook. Sheryl Sandberg in her book said this, that if I explain what my intention is before delivering my message is more apt to be received better. So my example here in my handout is maybe I feel like we need to cut that program. If I say we need to cut that program, it's just not working. We know that if a man says that, we start the conversation there. We don't give him any grief for it. But if a woman says, I want to cut that program, what do you think that? I don't know. Do you really? I think that that's wrong. We start to be judged for it. So if we explain our intentions, so I'm concerned about employee safety. I'm concerned about this. So therefore, I think we should do this. So explaining my intentions, I don't mean to do this. My intention is not this, but here's how I feel. So that takes practice. But again, research tells us if women explain that here's my intention, here's the content, if we switch that around, we have more success in getting more of what we want. So again, takes practice. Number 4, and this is again, one that kind of bums me out that we have to do, but women get assigned emotion a lot more than what we actually feel. So Allison got angry about that. Allison, whatever. People try to give us emotions that maybe we don't have. Guess our emotions, think that we're more emotional than men. And it matters, again, more for women. It can stand in the way of us getting what we want more so, again, research tells us, than men. So what we've found is if we name upfront our emotion and explain it, so that it doesn't get explained for us or folks don't try to guess what we're thinking. So for example, if I'm frustrated, if I look frustrated, it's because I am, or I'm frustrated about that because ... or I'm confused by what you just said. So explain what it is, the emotion that other folks may be seeing on your face so that they don't mislabel it as something else that can stand in the way of you moving something forward. So again, it makes me a little sad that we have to do that. But if it helps us move something forward, helps us find that joy, helps us to remove something from our plate or whatever it is, it's a small step we can take. So understand the emotion you're feeling, let somebody else know what it is so that they don't mislabel it, and then go from there. The 5th one, and this is important from so many different perspectives, focusing on the shared or collective interests of the different parties as you're trying to move something forward. This is a negotiation technique as well. So what I mean by this is, instead of just saying, I want this, I don't want that, and this is what I want, pointing it back to here's collectively what we can gain for that. Again, research tells us that when women, again, and this is the way it is, hopefully it's not gonna be this way forever, but when women say, when we focus on something for the good of the team, the community, the family, whatever it is, it's more apt to be received more, happily or better by the other party. So I'm going to give you an example that I just used 2 days ago. That I'm in Madison. My mom just moved about 10 minutes from me. My sister's in Minneapolis. My brother's in Florida. And I'm feeling that burden of having to go to the doctor appointments, having to run to the grocery store, all that kind of stuff. So talking to my siblings about balancing those responsibilities out, I could have started that conversation with, what the heck? I'm here doing all this work. It's a pain in the butt to have to march mom around all the time. We got to distribute this work. That would have gone over like X. Instead, I started the conversation with, we all want mom to thrive. We want her to be happy. We want her to be healthy. And I want to be in a place that I'm not resentful of her or resentful of you guys. So can we come up with some kind of solution, some kind of plan where I'm not resentful, I'm able to maybe spend, 2 hours max a week running errands, and then can we redistribute this so that mom is thriving and happy? So you see the difference there and how option A would have gone over versus how option B went over. So it's starting off with that collective intention, collective, interest. What do we all want here? We know that same thing with a family, when we're trying to figure out between family members how to divide chores, that if I start off by saying, husband, you're not doing your fair share of the chores, or I'm doing so much. We know that when we say, hey, we want the family to thrive, we want everybody to be healthy and happy, that again, setting those boundaries, moving that thing forward goes over a lot easier and more receptively. So we know research says when we do these things, we can get more of what we want. We can get more joy. We can accomplish what we want to accomplish, not what the other party wants to accomplish. So looking at those strategies, what are you going to try at 1101? So of all those, and I've been doing this for many, many years, as you can see, and I still have to remind myself, the focusing on that collective interest one is one that I get so head up and there's something I want, so I start with that and I don't back up. What's the collective interest here? So I know that's my bugaboo. So stick what you're going to work on in the chat. So of these strategies, which are you, or which one, let's just focus on one, are you going to try at 1101? Okay, Britta, collective interest. Okay, avoiding words like feel like, perhaps, etc. Yep. Say intent before content, Molly says. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to check on you. I don't know how I could do that. We'll check on each other next time we see each other. We should do that at our next Women United event. We should say, hey, what did you try and what worked? Thank you for sharing that. And then I just have 1 more minute left. But what I also wanted to share is on the second page of my handout are 15 literal words you can use, phrases you can use to set boundaries. So phrases you can use to say, yeah, that might be important to you. It doesn't fit within what I know is important to me. It doesn't fit with what I want to start doing. It doesn't fit with what I want to get rid of. It doesn't fit with finding my joy. So I would encourage you, and you'll see they're kind of variations of the theme, but I would recommend that you literally write this down, go into that conversation with your neighbor, with your friend, with your colleagues, whatever it is, try out one of these phrases. Variations thereof. So that doesn't work for me, but here's what does. My time and energy is going towards this right now. So help me, let's work together to figure out, I can reallocate that time and energy towards something else. Or saying yes to this will cause this negative consequence. So help me, boss, let's figure out what doesn't cause that negative consequence, or how can I reallocate my time? So these phrases, again, tried and true, they work. You can do it. You have to do it in order to get more of what you want, to get to strengthen your resolve, to communicate more decisively. So we have to practice it. Yes, you can do it. This is a way that we know will be received in a more favorable manner. So go ahead and try it. And yeah, we'll check back with you in a month. So that is what I have for you. I again at 1101, try the thing that you just promised to try, or one of these phrases. Try that. We hope it works for you. And I'm going to hand it back to Tina.
Awesome. Woo! How about that, you guys? Nice. Let's give her some snaps, some claps, and some love. So many tools in there, Allison, like so many tools that you shared with us. Intent before content is genius. I mean, a lot of the times we are communicating in a man's world, right? And so when you can really And even before you speak the words, getting straight on your intent internally is such a huge tool. It's amazing. And here's what I think we should do as a Women United group. I think we should start a sorry jar. So you know how there's swear jars? We get to start a sorry jar. So every time we catch somebody saying, I'm sorry, you get to like put $10 in the sorry jar, and then we get to have drinks at the end of the year together. Sound good? Everybody down with that? Give me some snaps and a yes if you like that. No more sorry, you guys. No more. And I almost just said sorry for saying guys. I'm not gonna, it's something that I'm working on, but no more sorry. No more sorry. We get to stand in our truth. We get to stand in who we are and be confident that when we show up, we're showing up in a powerful way. And so I love all the tools that you gave, Allison. Kudos to you. Just really, really amazing. Committed action is what I heard you say. Like you're really pushing for committed action. And when I think about committed action, I think about the rule of 72. Who knows about the rule of 72? So the rule of 72, how many times do you go to a class, you go to a workshop, you show up at some kind of training, you show up some kind of retreat, whatever it is. And it's exactly what Amy was talking about. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is such great content. I took this away and this away and this away. And then you walk out the door and you get caught up in the noise of the world of what's happening. So the rule of 72 is, what are you going to put into action, into committed action within the next 72 hours? And like really putting a stamp on that and being committed to it, because that's how you bust through the resilience. That's resilience. That's like, no, I get to not say sorry anymore. I still say it sometimes, and I've been practicing it for 2 years, not saying it. So resilience is an ongoing thing. Resilience is something that we practice every single day by busting through the things that we know aren't working for us, that are not serving us. So I love, love, love all of the tools. I want to thank you. I want to thank all of the speakers. I'm going to bring Jill up here in just a second, but I want to just take a pause and let's do another round of applause for Katie, Amy, and Allison. They poured into us this morning and gave us all kinds of tools for success and for celebrating our resilience, right? So we get to celebrate resilience. With that, I want to bring Jill back up to the stage to talk to us a little bit about some wrap-up stuff.
I love that, back up to the stage. It's like we're here in person.
We are on stage. Yes, on stage.
Really. Thank you guys so much. You know, I have pages of notes going through here. This has been just the best start to my morning. But I think that like 3 key takeaways for me, on Katie is, where focus goes, your energy goes. Instead of saying, oh, I don't have time for that. Well, what have I prioritized? What am I focusing on? Because that's where my energy will go and that's what I'll get done. And Amy's reminder around words matter. Think about what it is you're saying and be intentional about that. And then leverage what Allison was able to give us around some specific things to start those conversations. I don't know about you guys, but I can be super eloquent in my head. And sometimes it comes out as, you kind of like the mama and Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. And so having some of those that I know are my go-tos, being able to first identify and be clear about what's important to me, what are my boundaries, and then how is it that I'm able to communicate those to people in a way that I can move things forward, we can be respectful, but I don't get resentful because I feel I'm being taken advantage of. So you guys, thank you so much for all that you've been able to share with us today. We wanted to, circle back around here and, talk to those of you who are here today. If it's for the first time and you would like to consider joining Women United, we would love to have you be a part of this. You're going to see a number of links that we're going to throw in the chat here to make it easy for you. But, by joining Women United, really, you get a chance to work with, committed women, but you'll also just make sure that you're on our newsletter. You're going to get the invites to these. You're going to know that these are out there and be able to sign up for things that are important to you. We want you to be at future events with us. And as you join some of our events, if you're thinking, I really think I'd like to give a little bit more here, we would love to have you take a look at some of our committee work. That's what helps us move these forward, to be able to focus on the women of Dane County, but also of the students and being able to advance our philanthropy. You're going to get a chance to meet up with more women here, and especially when we're all coming out of hibernation of the last 2 years, it's a little weird and clunky to figure out, how do I re-engage? How do I network with people? How do I get out and talk to people? You know, you have a little practice in a breakout, but you get a chance to see people, whether it is virtually or together. Carly's also going to throw in our Facebook group link, because Women United has its own Facebook page. Who knew, right? But we do post a lot of things there. We have a monthly coffee collective, which, you know, occasionally, depending on the timing, might also be a wine collective. I think we need an alliteration there, Tina, around that. But would love to have you virtually join us for that, just to be able to kind of check in and provide some community for people. Also wanted to just share with you a little bit about a couple of events that we do have coming up. So if you've got your calendars out and you're thinking, hey, I'd really like to, you know, get involved. I've got, you know, some focus about being able to give back to my community. You know, on the screen, you're going to see that we've got the Second Harvest Food Bank on April 23rd. That's a Saturday. You know, there's a link for being able to sign up for that. I've already signed up my husband and a couple of my kids. And, you know, it's just a nice chance to be able to go and do something and give back and not, you know, have it be too much of a heavy lift. For those of you that are golfing or you'd like to golf, there is a golf outing at Pleasant View on May 21st. Women United will have a table there. You will be able to chat with people. Don't worry, you do not have to golf with me. That is not a plus. But you know, if that's something you want to do, you're able to put together a foursome. And our personal and professional development team has 3 more events for you, like today's, you know, where you're able to come together with our group. So the next one is June 16th. So again, if you sign up to be a Women United member, you're going to get these invites in your mail. But if you don't and you see them on Facebook, please, you know, join us there. The June 16th is around embodying confidence. August 9th, we've got vulnerability and boundaries. And just to skip to the bottom one here, our last one of the year is around health and gratitude. And I saved our, you know, the big one here on September 16th is our Women's United brunch and fundraiser. That is really where we get to honor a woman in the community for her philanthropy, but also we get a chance to continue to raise money for the Schools of Hope and all of the work that's being done. I mean, we heard from Carl, there've been a few challenges here and they've had to pivot and try to figure things out these last couple of years, and they could really use our help. And so the last thing I just want to put on your radar is, did you know Mother's Day is coming? Yeah, in May, it's coming up here shortly. And we have a fundraiser opportunity for you, where if you would like to donate to the Schools of Hope and help us meet our $100,000 goal and either honor your mother or in memorial and memory of your mother, who probably was, you know, one of your first teachers, you can make a contribution in her name to the Schools of Hope. And you just will have get information out to you shortly on that. You just go in and do the link. My children have done this the last couple of years and they're like, this rocks, because they know it's important to me and they don't have to go and shop or wrap or do anything. And it's something that, you know, most of us probably have pretty much all we need. And if there's a way to give back and do something in honor of someone else, we are just delighted to be able to use our opportunity here to raise some money and honor your moms. So with that, Tina, can I throw it back to you? And I think you're going to wrap us up today.
I am. We are very, very close to our wrap up. So I want to do some thank yous, because there was just so much goodness here today. I want to thank our speakers again. Let's give them another round of applause. Katie, Amy, Allison, you guys that was just, I mean, people pay hundreds of dollars to get that kind of content. So thank you so much for that. I want to thank Jill for being just amazing at the chair and just holding space for us and moving us forward in this community. It's amazing. Carly and Molly, they're always like right there to support us as we move forward and bring us back, and we kind of stray and they bring us back to where we need to be. So I want to thank you guys for just always being amazing. And just on top of it and helping us grow this community. So, and then last but not least, I want to thank each one of you. Like, I want you to just like really give yourself a pat on the back right now. You stayed the whole time. You showed up, right? And then you stayed the whole time. You took notes, you were engaged, you were here. That's resilience. I'm going to say it again. That's resilience. You said, no, I get to show up for me. I get to show up and learn. I get to show up and be better. I get to show up and have a community of women who wrap their arms around me. And that's what this community is all about. And we just get to create it and get bigger and better all the time. So much there's so many different ways to get involved. Find what works for you and dive in. I guarantee you it will give you back way more than you will ever give. So with that, I want to say thank you. I want to say have an amazing week. Make sure that you have that committed one thing in the next 72 hours. Be committed to it. That's resilience. Show your resilience and let us know. Put it in the Facebook group. We'd love to know. So with that, I want to say goodbye. We're going to hang around in case anybody has any questions or they just want to just talk about something or anything. So we're going to stick around. But with that, have an amazing day and we'll see everyone next time. Bye. No. Anybody
Big shout out to you, Tina.
Aw, thank you.
Session.
Thank you.
Fantastic
Great
session.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, hey,
Just
Kara.
what I need, just what I needed today.